Hi guys, and welcome to another opening video. In this video I'm gonna present you an aggressive opening against the Sicilian Dragon, and you will be able to put a lot of pressure on your opponent after watching this video. So let's start. And after e4, c5, knight f3, d6, d4 takes, knight d4, we reach the open Sicilian. And after knight f6, knight c3, black has a couple of options, going for the Najdorf with a6 or going for the Sicilian Dragon with g6. And that's already it, the starting position of the so-called Sicilian Dragon, where black usually plans to put his dark square bishop on this long diagonal, which is very powerful very often, and it also guards the king very well, and it's a tricky opening, and that's why I want to present you a plan for white, how you can create problems quite early in the game if your opponent doesn't know what to do. So the move I recommend here is pawn to f4, with the direct intention going e5 and pushing back the knight, which is ideally placed on f6 at the moment. And the big plus of this f4 move is that in a blitz game or with some other rapid time controls, when black is playing bishop g7, automatically he might end up in big trouble very soon. So first I'm gonna show you what happens after bishop g7, which is quite a frequent reaction, even though it's not best. And then I will also show you what should black do instead and how we can continue in this case, and white is not worse in this case. So you can play this opening without a big risk, but with the great benefit that you can get a very good or even a winning position very early. So let's dive into the variations. After bishop g7, as already said, we continue with pawn to e5. And we will first check the most frequent move, which is d takes e5, black takes, white takes back, of course. And now black needs to deal with this problem with the attacked knight on f6 again. And the best way to do this is knight to d7, after which white gets a fine position anyway after pawn to e6, splitting black's pawn structure, and the best black can do is something like knight e5 takes on f7, knight takes, and bishop e3. But here I would be quite happy with white. Black has an isolated pawn on the e line, and there is nothing for white to worry about. White has the comfortable choice of castling kingside or queenside, while black needs to go to this side, and the knight on f7 is a bit awkward. So even in this best line after the exchange on e5, white is in good shape. But now let's see what can really go wrong for black. So this is not the only square for the knight, and there is a big scope for black going even very, very wrong. For example, knight d5 would lose the game instantly. After bishop b5 check, king f8, there is no other answer, because knight c6 it's not possible because we attack it twice. Bishop d7 it's not possible because the d5 knight drops. And apart from this, okay, knight d7 is of course also not possible because the knight drops as well. So king f8 is forced, and after castles, the rook is coming into the game, the f-pawn is pinned now, and there are just too many attacking ideas. Just to give you a sample line, for example, if black greedily wants to exchange some pieces, we don't even recapture. And can you spot it? How can white win the game here instantly? It is knight e6, discovered, attacked by the queen, checking the black king and winning the queen. So bishop takes and queen d8 mate. This is a pattern we will see more than once here, so always watch out for some knight e6 check tricks. So if bishop takes e5, we can take on d5 as well, and after bishop h6 the king needs to go to g8 or bishop g7, both are possible, and after king h8 we could have this discovered attack. We attack the queen and at the same time we threaten to checkmate, so there is really not a lot black can do. And also we might threaten a checkmate with the queen on d8. If he sidesteps with a check, we go here, and there had been a couple of games played which ended with a very quick checkmate by white. So the fact that there are even games with this shows that it's a real opening, and there is a real chance that black falls into all these traps. So let's see what happens if he blocks the check with bishop g7 instead. And here there are several wins already for white, but I liked the very nice bishop to c4. And the point being that after queen takes, we again have knight e6 check because the pawn is pinned, and even if he can grab the knight for free, we checkmate afterwards. So summing up, knight d5 is quite a bad move because the knight on d5 needs protection by the queen, and this is not so easy to maintain as after bishop b5. We want to block the check, but we also need to maintain the protection of the knight, which is not possible and forces black into a very bad position after king f8. So let's continue with the next move. There is of course knight g4, but the problem is just the same. Bishop b5 disturbs all the coordination, and black cannot put anything to d7. For example, even bishop d7 just runs into queen g4, and he cannot take the queen because the bishop is pinned. So again, king f8 would be the only chance, but in this case it's just instantly over. Again, knight e6, winning the queen at the very least. So what else can black do? There is knight h5, and here it's a bit tricky. Of course, many players, if you didn't prepare this in detail, would play g4, which is not a bad move, but things become a bit messy after bishop e5. So that's why it's precise to include bishop b5 first, and only after bishop d7 play g4. The reason how I understand this is that now after bishop e5, then d4 knight is only attacked once because the queen is blocked, and so the advantage is much clearer and white is winning here. So I think that's it. There are no other escape squares for the knight. I think knight g8 is not a move we need to take seriously. So let's go back a little bit and check what else black could do here instead of playing bishop g7. I had a look at a few other options which might be reasonable and you could encounter in a practical game, even though they are not best, and I will show them to you now. So sometimes when your opponent thinks you're playing e5 and they are afraid of it, they just play it themselves. But this is not a good idea, and I will explain to you why. And just on general grounds, we just retreat the knight and black is in trouble, because usually when he wants to play the Sicilian dragon, the bishop belongs to g7, but the bishop on g7 on the other hand leaves the d6 pawn unprotected, and this is just one weakness too much, and if the bishop stays here, there's a big hole here, and maybe we can put our bishop here, preventing castling. So e5 is just creating too many weaknesses, and we just can play slowly after this. So what else did I check? I think I also thought about knight to d7, because it's preventing e5, and here we have a choice. The move I liked is queen e2. We can still play with the idea of e5, and we have a slight advantage here. Knight on d7, one could argue that it's also already misplaced, because it would rather go to c6. And that's already it. Knight c6 is, in my opinion, the best move. And now we should not be too aggressive, because something like takes and e5, knight d7, there are no problems for black really. The bishop will now go to e7, but the king is pretty safe. Black has a decent center and white is still stuck in the middle, so this is not recommended, as this would already favor black by a little. But instead you have a wide choice. You could, for example, just play bishop e2 and play a solid positional game. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video and you can employ the 6th f4 variation in your own games and win a lot of them. So if you like the content, leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and see you next time. Goodbye.